Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have a deck list that is intended to basically counter everything that you might encounter. So it is very similar to the Carnage Magic counter deck that we ran previously. However, with the update to Magic where you can no longer drop her on 6, we had to make some adjustments. And so we took out a few things, we added in a couple of other elements, and then this is what we landed on. And so far it feels like it does a pretty good job of addressing just about every major encounter that you might run into. And so ideally you can wave on 3, and then you can either Magic or Sarah on 4, and then that will allow you to do the other one on 5, and then on 6 and 7 you can do a plethora of things. A lot of times by that point you can either use your Enchantress, your Killmonger, your Shang-Chi to really hard counter the opponent. And then in the middle time in between there, what you're going to be doing is buffing up your Angela with things like Hood, Nova, and then killing those things off with Killmonger. You can potentially drop more onto that lane later. You have quite a bit of flexibility with this deck list. But let's run through the deck list really quickly. First up we have Hood. He's just going to be a great card to drop on tempo. If we end up killing him with either Carnage or Killmonger, that's perfect because he will generate a 6-power demon token in our hand, which is huge. Considering that some of these 6-cost cards are only 9 power, 6 power for 1 cost is really big. But if you factor in having to drop the Hood to be able to enable it, then it's technically a 2-cost 6-power card, which is still phenomenal. And then we have Nova. Nova is going to be a way for us to kind of help elevate our power in all of these other lanes just a little bit. And that way we can hopefully hold down a win and secure 2 lanes for us to have a victory. We have Angela. Angela is going to be one of our big power pushes in this list, being able to buff her up to between 7 and maybe even 11, depending on the order at which you drop your Killmonger. You can get a lot of upside from Angela in this list, making it a contender for a lane while your other resources are working in those other locations for you. And then we have Carnage. Carnage is here to clear the Hood, to clear Nova, to clear any goblins or rocks that they send your way. Carnage is going to be able to clean that up, become a decent power card in the process, and then allow us to have that additional space to play our counter cards where we want to. And then we have Killmonger. Killmonger is going to completely counter some decks that lean really heavily on that 1-cost card can get absolutely obliterated if they are not protected in some way, shape, or form. And so a lot of times this alone can sneak you a 4-cube game, an 8-cube game, because they're not going to be anticipating this as a resolution card unless you've already dropped a few of your counter pieces. But even then, you have that advantage in being able to know that you can take out a big chunk of their power in certain lanes, and you can calculate that into how much power you need to push to win. And then we have Wave. Wave is a way for us to cheat out one of our 5-cost cards early. In this list, we have 4 5-cost cards. Ideally, our most ideal one is going to be Sarah. That way we can drop Magic and then additional cards on 5 into a turn 6 and turn 7 where we get to play just about everything that we have in our arsenal. But if we don't have one of those, odds are we will have a good target if we have Wave. So a Doc Ock is good at draining their resources. Captain Marvel is good at being that rover on the board to push power into multiple lanes. Sarah, of course, discounts your cards, and then Magic extends the game. So then we have one of our big counter cards, Shang-Chi. If we can extend the game, a lot of decks are starting to get really greedy lately. If they go unpunished, they're going to keep getting greedier. And so this is going to be a way for us to counter those really greedy Electro Destroyer Taskmaster style lists by being able to destroy that card when maybe they were wanting to do an Arnim Zola to duplicate it, or maybe they were counting on that lane as a win condition and then playing in the other one on turn 6 or turn 7. And then we have Enchantress. Enchantress is going to remove all ongoing abilities at that location. So if your opponent is going greedy on the ongoing side of cards, so if they have Omega Red, if they have Iron Man, if they have Onslaught, Patriot, Enchantress is going to be able to shut those decks down efficiently. And then we have Magic. Magic can no longer be played on turn 6, but if we can ramp into this a little bit earlier, if we have Sarah and Magic and Wave, we can get this out onto the board, we can extend the game, and then all of a sudden we have an extra turn, and the opponent starts running out of resources relatively quickly. And then we have Sarah. Sarah is going to reduce the cost of our cards in our hand by 1. So even if we just do this, all of a sudden we can do both a Shang-Chi and an Enchantress on that final turn. We can do a Shang-Chi and then maybe the Demon token and a Killmonger. We have a lot of flexibility with just Sarah. And then if we can extend the game on top of that, a lot of times we can force the opponent's hand by making sure that we know exactly where those counters are needed, effectively swinging that lane and the game. And then we have Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel at the end of the game is going to move to a location that will win you the game, if possible. And so this is a way for us to push power into those side lanes. So maybe all we can drop on turn 6 is a Shang-Chi and an Enchantress, but Shang-Chi is not quite enough to get over that power level that's already in that lane after destroying whatever cards are above 9. Captain Marvel will be able to fly over to that lane, securing the win for the game, and she comes in really, really clutch in a lot of scenarios. And then finally, rounding out the deck list, we have Doc Ock. Doc Ock is going to pull 4 random cards from your opponent's hand to their side of this location. And so this can do a couple of things. We might absolutely lose that lane in the process, but what this can do is this can help us drain their resources. If they are running a combo deck and they want to combo Mystique with an ongoing ability, we can pull that onto the board and restrict what they can play and what order they can play it in. Maybe we pull into all of their ongoing cards, and then we have a really good target for Enchantress. Maybe we pull into their Magneto, their Infinite, their really large minions, and then we have a really good target for a Shang-Chi as well. And then for the rest of the game, so if we extended the game and we drop this on 5, turn 6, and turn 7, a lot of times the opponent is only going to be able to play whatever they top deck at that point. And so by draining their resources, they have a lot less counterplay potential, so we can efficiently stack our power where we need it. But that is the rundown of the deck list. We are going to go ahead and jump into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so first up we have Awesome. And look at this starting hand. We have our Wave, into our Sarah on 4, into our Magic on 5. We also have Angela that we can start buffing up. Incredible. Incredible start to a hand until we kind of figure out what they... Ooh, that could have been bad. We could have had the ideal combo and then ended up discarding it. What did they discard? It turned out... Oh my gosh. So they discarded something? What? That's unfair. We don't know what they're running because we don't know what got discarded. It was black. What in the world? That's the first time that has happened to me. Ooh, after turn 3, we're going to shuffle our hand into our deck. That is unfortunate. That's not what we wanted to see. Everything is not awesome, my good friend. You said that it was awesome. It is very much not awesome. Ooh, and then the Maximus play is huge. It's a really nice play because it forces us to draw into additional cards. Normally, that's great for us. But knowing that a T-Lane is going to shuffle those cards into our deck after this turn, all of a sudden we can't do a whole lot. And so they only have 4 cards because they shuffled them in. I think what we do is we pull a Doc Ock. We drop a Doc Ock. We can do either a Captain Marvel or a Magic next turn if we feel like we need to extend the game. And so after draining their resources, it might be beneficial for us to extend the game so we get an additional turn. But at the same time, that could cause them to top deck some stuff that maybe would win them the game. So we have to play it depending on what cards or what resources we end up pulling with our Doc Ock. And so let's go with the random element. I did go ahead and snap just in case this is like an absolute killer and they end up losing because of this. We want to at least get 2 cubes, but it does increase our risk just ever so slightly. So if they pull into a Professor X and we can't do anything and we lose that lane, well, at that point, it's an uphill battle. We probably lose. Okay, so they lock in a Swordmaster, which does discard their Mysterio, which is kind of unfortunate because now we're only going to pull into 2 resources instead of 4. We'll see what those resources are. Angela, which is a good play order. That's a good order for them to drop it in. And then Killmonger destroys their Nova, and so then that starts buffing up their cards. None are within Shang-Chi range, though. And so we do currently have the win here, but they are going to have to operate on their top deck from now on. And so I think what we do is we just go ahead and I think we drop Captain Marvel here. I don't think we extend the game with Magic. I don't think that necessarily benefits us too greatly because right now they don't have anything that's just incredible. Ooh, the Strong Guy. We could Shang-Chi the Strong Guy. If that's what we top deck into, I think we drop our Shang-Chi on turn 6. Well, Enchantress is okay. We can drop Enchantress. That will reduce their power here. And then we can just drop I would say a Nova. But let's just go ahead and drop a Carnage. And then Captain Marvel is going to act as that kind of buffer. So they did end up retreating. So by them having to top deck their cards, it becomes a lot harder for them to kind of push and maneuver power where they want to or where they need to. So we were going to be able to cancel out the Strong Guy bonus, which should have given us the lead here. We had the lead here, but Captain Marvel was that kind of rover to kind of act as a buffer if we needed a little bit more power in one lane. That is the power of Doc Ock. Sometimes he's going to win you the game, sometimes he's going to lose it for you, but either way, he is going to control what resources they can drop and win. So let's go ahead and jump into the next one and see if we can keep the streak going. All right, so next up we have Acronis. Acronis? We have Ock. The first location is Elysium, which is pretty good for us. That means that they're probably going to end up dumping too many of their cards onto the board. Right now it is 2 1-cost cards. We know that we eventually have a Killmonger to handle those. Their Iceman did hit one of our cards. It hit our Doc Ock, so it's going to be going back up to a 5-cost instead of being reduced down to 4. We do have Sarah, though, which is going to be a really good resource for us to drop on the board. But I think here we're just going to pass on turn 2. Let's drop. We're gonna have to pass on turn 3 as well. Ooh, Mindscape is tough, but we do have magic to change that on turn 5, and so then we won't have to swap hands after that. And so let's go with the Angela for now. Next turn we will go with a Sarah. Turn 5 we will go with a magic and then something else. It depends if they ever drop cards again. So they came out really heavy. And then they've backed off since then. So let's drop the Sarah into Mindscape. We're going to hold Nova for now. Since it is a free card, there's no harm in holding it. Ooh, so they may have like an own reveal style deck, and they were expecting us to stack into the Angela lane, which, I mean, makes sense. But fortunately for us, that is not what we ended up going with. Otherwise, I mean, actually, it would have been able to be Shang-Chi had we went that direction. Oh well. So let's go ahead and hit the magic. They're probably going to flood quite a few of the resources onto the board here, expecting us to change hands after this turn. And so then we can kind of get an element of surprise there as well. Okay, so they do flood a lot of cards onto the board. So they have the Zero, the Lizard. Ooh, the Sandman is an interesting one. And then we do extend the game with magic. And so right now they have 1 card in hand. They were expecting this to rotate away, but we were able to get the upside. So I'm kind of torn. I don't know if we want to use an Enchantress on the Sandman. I mean, that feels okay, but I don't know. Going into that last turn, maybe we need it. Because it's restricting us to 1 card per turn. But it's also a valuable resource, and so I don't know. It does feel like a little bit of a waste, but we're going to go ahead and go with it. That way we can do our Nova, our Captain Marvel, our Wave. We can do all sorts of plays on that final turn. With Sandman, we're only going to be able to do 1, and maybe we could keep the curve, but most likely we would end up struggling a bit. Ooh, Sword. Oh no, the Sarah's stacked there. Oh my gosh, we are choking. So it was a double reduction. At least we still have Elysium to fall back on. So we can do the Shang-Chi, which will clear 9 of the power here. The effect for Sandman still looks like it is going off, but yeah, it's not. It's not. So we can do a Nova. We can do a Hood for no reason. It buffs this lane up by 2. The only thing it does is protect us from maybe a Goblin here. But they snap. Let's go ahead and snap back. We know that we have this lane locked down. We have Captain Marvel that can be kind of a rover and move over into this lane. We're going to buff up Angela quite a bit, and so I think we have a decent shot here, and here. So I'm feeling okay about this. The Sarah Enchantress was kind of unfortunate, but okay. So they stack their Ant-Man. Ooh, okay. So do we win this lane still, even after taking out, even with that Iron Man bonus? We do, just barely. We just barely win the Limbo location after they stack a huge Iron Man into the lane that we had already Enchantressed. And so our Captain Marvel is not going to be able to win mid, but she can move over to the left. She can win us and secure us Elysium in the process. Then we win left and right, and we lock in the 8-cube victory. So again, not an ideal game, but it was a good result nonetheless. All right, so next up we have Piriri. And in our starting hand, we have our Angela, we have Wave. If we can draw into either Magic or Sarah, or even a Doc Ock is pretty good as a way to pull in a lot of their cards and force them into kind of a play line that they didn't necessarily want to. And so we are going to go ahead and drop our Angela into the vault, and then we are going to lock that in. And then while this is resolving, if you guys are watching this video and you're not currently subscribed to the channel, definitely consider subscribing. We are so very close to that next major channel milestone of 4,000 subscribers. And with global launch coming tomorrow, we're going to be doing an extended live stream. We're going to be live pretty much all day on both YouTube and Twitch. And so if you are enjoying it and you do want to make sure that you are here for that live notification, make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss anything. Okay, so the last location turns up and it is Olympia. And so we're going to be able to drop Wave. That draws us into a couple of extra cards. We're going to be able to drop Wave. We can then do either a Captain Marvel, we can do Magic. We have a much better chance of drawing into Sarah as well, which is our more ideal play path or play line. And so we do draw into our Sarah, which is huge. That is exactly what we needed. Now, the vault is looking pretty iffy. We could drop a big power card there. We could actually Carnage it and have more power than we currently have in that location. And so I think it's something that we consider, potentially just resetting this lane. Since they did send us a negative green goblin, that cuts the power that we currently have there in half, basically. And so for their wave play, they ended up doing a Lockjaw. Very, very interesting. And so they're going to go for a cycle spree, it looks like. Instead of resetting it with something like Carnage, I think what we do instead is we go ahead and we play our Magic into the far right lane. We can go ahead and play Nova into the vault. That will currently lock it down, but we do have Killmonger to drop at some point that will kill this. It will buff all of these up by 3, so it's going to be a 5 power play here, and we'll be able to play there on the 7th turn if we need to push some additional power as well. And so let's go ahead and extend the game here. Let's see what they end up dropping. Let's see what they start rotating into. If they fall into that kind of common Lockjaw trap where it's a really greedy Lockjaw list, then a lot of times we can just Shang-Chi it at the end of the game and then force their hand pretty effectively. Okay, so they cycle into Thor. So we actually have 2 potential targets for what we want to hit with a Shang-Chi. So we can do Hood. We can do... No, I don't think we do Hood here. I think we do a Captain Marvel to act as a floater. We drop a Killmonger to kill off this Nova. We can then push another card in that lane next turn if we need to. We could do a Shang-Chi, we can do a Doc Ock. If we draw into an Enchantress, we can do that, but I don't think, actually, we're gonna draw into Enchantress because we will get all the way through our deck list. And so that's also important to know because they're not gonna be able to cycle any more cards after this turn. Their cards are going to be set, they're gonna have them all in hand, and so they're not gonna be able to cycle anything because there's nothing left in their deck to cycle out of. And so right now we are losing the vault location, but that's fine. That's fine. We don't need it. We do draw into our Enchantress. How do we want to play this? We can go with the guaranteed Shang-Chi value, and then we could do a Doc Ock here as a way to push even more power in this location. But the only downside is that draws into pretty much all of their cards. And so knowing that this is a Lockjaw list, I really don't like that. I really don't like that as a play line. So we could do the Chavez here, and then I think maybe we just do a 4 power Enchantress into this far right lane. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't even feel good, but it does feel necessary. We have initiative, so we couldn't kill Thor even if we wanted to. Let's give it a shot. We have Captain Marvel to act as a buffer, but I don't think her floating over into the Hellfire Club would really help us at all. We do win the vault location very, very heavily. And so let's see if maybe this is a Mjolnir and an Odin. If it is an Odin, we actually win the Limbo location as well. Beautiful. And so that pushes a big power push onto Thor on the far left lane. We win the middle and the far right location. Unless this last card can go wide, which would break my heart since they dropped an Odin. But we are able to pull that down. We are able to lock down those 2 lanes with that counterplay of Shang-Chi. We had the Captain Marvel to act as a buffer, but honestly, with how big Thor was going to get, That was never in the cards. And so let's go ahead and jump over into the next one and see if we can keep these big games going. All right, so I think maybe everybody is resting up for the global launch, because next up we have Awesome again. And so we're playing a much smaller pool of people, it seems like. But everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when you're living your dreams. So I think what we want to do here is we can do a Doc Ock into a huge Shang-Chi play in Nidavellir. Then we only need to focus on one of the other locations. I like that play line quite a bit. Let's go with the wave on the next turn, probably a Doc Ock on 4, and then we can, depending on what we draw into, we can kind of adjust from there. Ooh, the super flow is really, really unfortunate. But we already, well, let's go ahead and play our wave over into Nidavellir. I guess there's no point in we could push it into super flow since there's no downside. But I know that probably we're only going to end up dropping 3 cards in this lane. And so what we want to do is stack them in an efficient way. So they use an early Killmonger to kill off our Nova, but that's fine. Honestly, that is okay. Both of these are in the position where they can't be Shang-Chi'd, so that's kind of scary. And then we draw into Sarah. I do like a good Sarah drop, but we're gonna go with the Doc Ock. Let's go with the Doc Ock. We're gonna pull into 2 more cards into Nidavellir, at least. Well, we pull into 1 more card in Nidavellir. Maybe we should have done Doc Ock and Superflow just to get rid of all of their resources. That could have been a potential play. But if this is a big card, we can potentially hit all 3 of these with a Shang-Chi play. Ooh, that's a small card, and so that's fine as well. We can hit all 3. We can hit 2 of these with a Shang-Chi play. That's going to leave them with 14 power. We're going to have them beaten already. And so let's go with a Sarah. I'm torn. I am torn. So we could do a Captain Marvel. That way it kind of acts as a wide rover. It can move into one of these other lanes. But I also like the idea of dropping Sarah, so we can drop just a little bit more onto the board. And we could do Sarah here. That way we have 1 additional energy. We're gonna do our Sarah in Superflow. Had we dropped it into Nidavellir, wow, that is a lot of cards. Oh my gosh, that is a huge amount of cards. Had we dropped our Sarah into Nidavellir, we would have had 7 energy going into this final turn. Actually, we probably should have, knowing that they... Oh my gosh. Oof. Woof. That's rough. So now we can only do a handful of drops. We can do this one, and then we can do a Angela and a Killmonger. That's going to be 3, 4... That's going to be a 6 power push here. It depends on what they drew into on this last turn. If they have an America Chavez, then they win this middle location. Otherwise we're fine. Maybe a strong guy. I now wish we would have done the Captain Marvel rover kind of. Well, let's give them the thumbs up. There's not, or the fist bump. There's nothing else we could do. Nova is not going to do it, my good friend. Let's go ahead and hit them in the left-hand side with a Shang-Chi. We are going to be able to take the left and the miniaturized lab, so the left and the middle location. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, yeah, that's fine. We destroy their Nova, which buffs up their left and the right-hand side, but it's not enough to be impactful or to matter. And so that is another win in the books. That is 4 wins. We did lose 2, 1 to a TVA location and then 1 to just a complete counterplay. We had a Professor X that came down, and there wasn't really much that we were able to do at that point. But let's go ahead and jump over into the next one, see if we can keep these good games going. All right, so next up we have Unit 0. The first location is Washington, D.C., which is going to be a good location for our demon. Now, they dropped a Sunspot on the board. I was kind of afraid that they would have like a Killmonger, but since they dropped a Sunspot on the board, I don't think that's really a concern anymore. I think we go ahead and drop a Nova into Washington, D.C. We don't want to drop our demon just yet because we do plan on dropping Killmonger to destroy their Sunspot, which if they lean too heavily on it, if they don't protect it with like an armor, then it becomes a pretty big detriment to them. The last location is Monster Island, so that's an instant or easy Shang-Chi target if we want to go that route. Let's do this Killmonger this turn. I don't think we get too greedy and wait too long, just in case. Ooh, so they have Electro, so they're going to ramp. They could potentially have a Professor X that's going to come down soon. So I think we need to, I don't know, play with that in mind. So this next turn, they're going to have 5 energy. They could drop a Professor X wherever they want. We do have initiative. I don't think with an Electro, they're going to use any strong ongoing cards. And so I think we take this time to actually take advantage of our Enchantress. If they lock down the Washington, D.C. lane, that feels kind of unfortunate, but I think it's fine. If they lock down, or if they're trying to lock down Monster Island as like a cheeky way to push that power, knowing that we have a cheap demon to push into Washington, D.C., then I think we counterplay them with the Enchanters over into Monster Island. So the initial play is to make sure we have a demon token here to get the upside from Washington, D.C., but I think they're smart enough that they're going to play away from that, knowing we have the demon token. Now, they could also just have a Hobgoblin. That could be their play, and it is a Professor X, so we did call the Professor X play correctly. As long as they don't have something that can push power over to the side, we're absolutely fine. We lock down this Monster Island lane. We're sitting so pretty. Let's go ahead and drop a Sarah. Do we drop a Sarah? Do we drop a Magic, potentially, to extend the game? I think this deck list that they're running could potentially run Leader. And so we need to look out. We need to potentially be on the lookout for that. Let's go ahead and play this. Okay, yeah. So after the Professor X locked down, they were going to be in for a really tough win condition. It was going to be really hard for them to come back over and win. And so that is, and so we anticipated really, really well, knowing that Electro right now is running a lot of Professor X's, a lot of Destroyer plays. We kind of had that in mind, and we were able to play our power efficiently. And so let's go ahead and jump over into the next one and see what kind of match we have next. All right, so next up we have Ripley J, and out of the really good 3 targets that we had for Sakaar to pull into, I guess the 2 good targets we had for Sakaar to pull into, it pulled into Nova, of all things. Now, he has a Mojo, it's ongoing card, and then Squirrel Girl. If you don't know Ripley J, we have ran several of his deck lists. So we ran his Patriot deck list, we ran his Cerebro 6, and more recently we ran the Nick Fury list that was created by Ripley J. And so I feel like he is probably has Patriot mixed into this deck list somewhere, somehow. I just don't know where. We do have Wave, so we're going to be able to do a Wave into like a Sarah or a Doc Ock. He uses Goose. So Sarah's going to allow us to potentially Enchantress this lane if he like tries to protect like a Patriot behind it. And so we might be able to get some upside there. But I think we wait and see. And so, ooh, he storms the Asgard location. So now we actually only have one more turn to play cards into that lane. Now we do have a Killmonger that we can drop at some point, which will clear their squirrels and take away a lot of that potential power push. I think we just kind of continue par for the course. And we drop our Sarah. We could go with a Doc Ock to pull into the rest of their cards, but I think maybe we do that next turn. Maybe we do that on turn 5. Ooh, so he drops a Dr. Doom, which pushes power into Sakaar and into the flooded lane. Right now, we're tied in the flooded location. We need to draw into some... Okay, there's our Killmonger. That is good. That is big. We could just... Oh, no, we can't. We can't do a Doc Ock. It would get eaten by the goose. So let's go ahead and do our Doc Ock here. We can go ahead and drop our Hood because we're going to do a Killmonger next turn anyways. And then that's going to force them. They're not going to be able to play on this final turn. And so they do have the Patriot. What do we pull into as the last card here? That is going to be the biggest. Oh my gosh, that's huge. That is huge. So we pulled into their Mystique, which was a 50-50 shot, but that was huge. That was very, very huge. So now how do we want to do this? So if we do something like an Enchantress to take away that Patriot, that double Patriot bonus, we could do our Killmonger to destroy the Hood and Nova, destroy the Squirrel, and then we could drop our Demon here. And so if we take care of this bonus, it's 5, 6, 7 power. We beat them here, and we beat them here. Let's see if he holds it out. The double Patriot was huge, but we do have the Enchantress to counter it. Let's see if he sticks in for the 4-cube game. We got a really, really lucky setup here. And so that he can't play any cards, he just has to kind of wait and watch the show. Let's watch the Enchantress come in, reduce that power bonus that he had across the board. Our Killmonger will now sweep a lot of the squirrels. It will boost up our 2 cards in the flooded location, our cards over in Titan, and then we do finish it off with the big demon play at the very end. And so Ripley J, thank you so much for that. We actually lost a game to him just a little bit ago, so it's not like we absolutely came in and just devoured him. He did win the first game, so now we're 50-50 as far as our matchups with this current deck list that I'm running. But we are going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.